at the top we'll be recording.
Just everybody, good morning.
Morning, Claire.
Can you all see my screen? Well, I
See it there, Claire. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So thanks, Rose. Thanks very much for the invitation to speak at Get to Know Galway. My name is Claire and I'm the owner of Real Adventures Connemara. And what we are, we're an outdoor activity provider based in the Connemara region. Personally, I've been working in the outdoor industry for about 20 years in various parts of the world. And I landed down in Connemara in 2003 and absolutely fell in love with the place, and especially what it has to offer in terms of outdoor adventure. So I set up Real Adventures in 2012, so happy to say we'll be going into our 10th season this year. And as I said, we offer half-day and full-day outdoor adventure activities. And what I think sets us apart a little bit is we can really tailor the session to suit the customer's needs, so that we can give them the best possible experience in the best locations that we've chosen. Our customers book online, over the phone. Our booking system's really easy, or you can contact us 7 days a week to book. Once the booking has been made, they'll receive instant confirmation, and within that confirmation there'll be details of where they need to go, what they need to bring, and what time they need to be there. So primarily we don't organise transport for our activities, to and from our activities, but it is something we've done many times in the past for groups. So that's just something that can be done in advance if necessary. We've a 100% safety record, I'm happy to say, and that's down to a great team of staff that have they're fully qualified in their respective disciplines, and they come with lots of experience and lots of enthusiasm as well. Our customers range from FITs, so we've couples, groups of friends and families. We have incentive groups, and so stags, hens, we've sports teams come out to us. We do team building and bonding days out. Where we're located, so you can all see the map there. We have a few different spots around the Connemara area. So we do the majority of our water sports over in Ballyconneely, and we have rock climbing in Roundstone, and we do hiking in the hills of Connemara. So whether it's the 12 Bends, the Mount Turks, or the Maureen Mountains. We're roughly just over an hour from Galway city, close to a town called Clifton, which is in the heart of Connemara, which is known as the heart of Connemara. And Clifton has lots of lovely restaurants, great live music venues, and there's lots of hotels there that can cater for conference and leisure facilities. There's some beautiful boutique shops, and close by there's lovely walking and cycling trails and a real great community of people. So lots to offer just in the Clifton and the surrounding area. So what we do, our activities include rock climbing, surfing, so surf lessons, coastal kayak tours. We can do half-day or full-day hill walking tours. We do coast steering and sunset kayaking and stand-up paddleboarding. Kayaking and paddleboarding actually take place at the back of the Connemara Sands Hotel. So again, it's a really great venue for if you're thinking about doing an overnight in Clifton. That would be one that we would recommend. We kind of partner with those guys. And just to give you an idea of some of these venues, I have just a few pictures to show you. So this is a picture looking onto our kayak and paddleboard site. This is the one that's looking from the site towards the 12 Bends, and as you can see, the crystal clear water, beautiful white sand beaches. They're made of coral, which it's basically broken down coral, so that's why you've got that really white sand beach and clear waters. This is looking at one of our surf lessons, so really great waves for learning on, again in just a really stunning location. You've got the mountain vistas in the background, and this is just some of the wildlife that you'll get to see on some of our tours. So just to give you an idea of what a typical adventure morning or afternoon looks like with Real Adventures. So let's take coasteering, for example. Coasteer is a fairly new activity, but one that's really popular with, a lot of our clientele and especially corporate incentive groups. So you'll have received directions to the meeting point where you'll meet the staff, and the staff will be there waiting for you with the equipment. You'll then be given a demo on how to get into the equipment, and you'll go off and put the gear on, get geared up, and we'll get ready to go. We'll head off to the start point where we'll do a safety brief, a pretty comprehensive safety brief, and we'll also get to know along the way what it is you're looking to get out of the experience. And then once you've received the safety brief, we'll get going. As I said, coasteer is a fairly new experience, so you mightn't have heard of it, but it basically involves a little bit of wild swimming, some climbing around, low-level cliff climbing, jumping off cliffs, swimming through caves such as this one, and really getting up close and personal with the wild Atlantic way, maybe getting to learn a little bit about the ecology and the biology of the area. So that's coasteering. Just to give you a little bit of information on all of our activities, and as I say, all of these can be tailored to the group, and again in really, really exceptional locations with a team of staff that's looking to cater for the needs throughout the entire session. So our numbers, we can do basically from as little as 2 people up to 25 people per activity, depending on the activity. We supply all the equipment, so there's no specialized gear required. We supply everything. It's accessible for complete beginners and non-swimmers. Obviously, that's for the water sports. And the sessions are 2.5 hours long. We've a morning session 10 to 12:30, an afternoon session at 2:30 to 5, and an evening session at 6:30 to 9. And we are fully COVID compliant, something I hope we don't have to worry about in the future. And as I said, booking is really straightforward through our online booking system, or you can contact us directly to book. And apart from what we have to offer, as I said, there's so much to do in Clifton and the surrounding areas. So you can visit the castle. There's lots of walking trails and cycle trails. There's the iconic Connemara Abbey, just around the corner from us, the Derrygimla Looped Walk. It's taken in the Alcock and Brown landing site, which was the first transatlantic flight. And you have the Connemara Smokehouse for the foodies amongst us, and the DK oyster tours. So lots and lots to do in the surrounding area. So that's us. Thank you for listening. That's my contact details for anyone who wants to get in touch. And if you've any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thanks so much, Claire, and well done. You're a great ambassador for Connemara. I love the images and the choice of locations there. They just look amazing. It's hard to believe they're actually Connemara in Galway, but on the other hand, it isn't, because it is a stunning place. So anybody got any questions for Claire? You can just, Arthur, do you want to unmute yourself there?
Hey Claire, well done. That's a lovely presentation. Well done. And I have to say, coasteering is something I've never heard about before, but I'm definitely going to give it a shot. I have a question just on the likes of the changing facilities and all that sort of stuff. For incentive programs, they love all these sort of things, and the actual experience is great. But quite often, when you try when you look at the changing facilities, etc., that it doesn't quite meet the same level. What do you do? What do you do in that regards to the?
Yeah, so we actually just put in new changing facilities down at our kayak and stand-up paddleboard site for this year. For the co-steering site, that's not something we can offer because it's on common land, so it's not really somewhere we can build changing facilities. But we do have that down on the kayak and SUP site. It's just the surfing and co-steering that you'll either be changing in nature, which is actually part of the experience, or for anyone that's a little bit worried about that, they can always change in the back of the van.
Yeah, and that quite often is the thing. Actually, once the expectation is managed in that regard, that people know this is a full experience here, so they don't mind it as much. It's great. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Arthur. Anybody else got a question for Claire there? See anyone there? Or you can write it down if you want.
Hi Rose. Hi Claire.
Hi Tara.
Yeah, it is a really, really good presentation, and certainly something that I wasn't aware of. So that's what I really like about these sessions you set up, Rose. You discover something new at each session. Just Claire, in terms of the equipment, I know a lot of it's provided. Like, what's the most basic of equipment that your guests should show up in? Like, is it just a towel and a pair of shorts, or?
Yeah, exactly. That's all you need.
Okay.
We supply. We even have the shoes, because a lot of people, when they come on holiday, they don't bring a spare pair of shoes that that will get destroyed. So we have stacks and stacks of shoes that they can borrow. So maybe a spare pair of socks, because not many people like putting their feet into shared shoes. So yeah, a towel and, as you say, swimming shorts or swimsuit. And that's it.
And Claire, one of your locations is near the Connemara Sands Hotel. What activity do you do there?
That's the paddleboarding and the kayaking we run at the back of the Connemara Sands. So it's the reason that we can have the changing facilities on site there as well. Is,
okay. So
they kind of they sort of saw the benefit in having us run our kayaking out of the back there. So.
So a good location if your group wanted to get some lunch or dinner after doing that activity, you'd be right on site there as well.
Yeah, and the instructors as well themselves are all sort of ambassadors for Connemara, so they'll tell you all the hot spots to go to for food afterwards, or during your lunch break, or the other tourist attractions that you could visit.
Sounds amazing, Claire. We'll all be rushing out to try out the co-steering if we're brave enough. So if anyone doesn't have anything else there for Claire, we're going to welcome Cormac next. Cormac, hello. Thank you, Claire.
Thanks, Rose.
Morning, Cormac.
Good morning, Rose. And we'll start to share here, I hope.
You can share your screen away there now.
Is that okay? Or how are we doing there?
Yeah, can see you there. If you just want to go to the first slide then.
The slideshow up. Great. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Brilliant. Good evening, Margaret. Thanks a million for having us here today. It's a bit of a special week, I suppose, for all of us with the inter-county restrictions lifting yesterday, and springs of hope, we hope. And hopefully we're going to have some international visitors, we hope, back soon, because as a business and as an entity that solely focus on international visitors, we've sorely missed them since last March. So we're looking forward to coming back. We can't believe we've missed them so much, just even for that company. So for the next few minutes, I'm pretty glad I'm going ahead of Brian, because the story I'm going to tell is about Experience Gaelic Games. So I don't think it's going to be as engaging maybe as Brian's yarns. But we'd like to tell you a little bit about the story of Experience Gaelic Games first, and then about the services, particularly focus on the services available in Gaelic and Galway. As Brian would say, like all great Gaelic stories, it should start with a fado. And our fado takes us right back to 2009 when we founded Experience Gaelic Games. It's myself and my far better half, Georgina, inside with a lesser spotted Liam McCarthy club in Dublin. And we set up, I suppose, in 2009, and it really came from our passion to share in a very formal and structured channel, so we could properly and fully explain the unique and really extraordinary cultural and social influence that Gaelic Games and the GAA has upon historical and modern Irish society, and how that had affected our personal experience as a family, how it affects our community, and how it defines our culture, and a passion to try and share that. So we set up Experience Gaelic Games as a sort of sustainable tourism to help to bring international visitors into the heart of local communities, and to engage with local clubs, and one of the 2,200 clubs on the island. And we're pleased to say, after 10 years of toiling at the front line, in 2019 we were delighted to have hosted over 20,000 visitors, international visitors, primarily across our base in Dublin and Galway, our permanent bases, and some of our pop-up locations nationwide, which we'll just explain a little bit later on. So, so what it is and what we do. Sometimes when people hear, particularly locally here, our business name of Experience Gaelic Games, they tend to think of it as a sporting challenge. But really, for us, what Experience Gaelic Games is about a unique, immersive cultural experience, and it's about interpreting Irish or Gaelic, the uniqueness of Irish or Gaelic culture, through the mediums of the most unique social and cultural organisation on the island, on Cumann Lucas Gael, or the GAA. So really, a lot of it is based around the storytelling, and while we tell the story in relation to the history of the games and the prevalence and influence of GAA and Gaelic Games and the tribalism of it in Irish life, we also focus, the second part of it is focusing on having fun activity, because as passionate as we are about telling the cultural story, understanding that our clients are on vacation, on holidays, they're here to have fun and enjoy themselves. So, so that's what we do. The product itself is ideally suited. It works really well across all sectors. It's perfect for incentives and team building, in the sense that it brings out, I'm afraid, that little bit of competitiveness that exists in most of the incentive visitors. And if anything, we have sometimes to cool their competitiveness for them. We also work across all the educational groups. We from North America and the European market. And hotspot obviously for us is obviously travelling sports groups, or international rugby tours, soccer tours, and indeed we were hoping once again to take the American football teams who were due to play in the Aviva over the last 2 years as well. So last one to say just before we leave that is also remarkably on our base in Galway, we cater for a huge amount of senior groups, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, and just about to launch an FIT product in Galway in 2020. So what it's about local community engagement. So in our site in Dublin, which is a site of our visitor centre in Dublin, which is the basis of the template for which we work on all around. And this is our visitor centre in Leamellis in Galway, with Ty delivering his group to some slightly older students, you might see. They're still having problems graduating, so they're back for retraining. And then we work across pop-up sites in Belfast and in Cork. And then we travel with 2 mobile units which travel on site. So particularly for incentives and time poor itineraries, we travel to it. So you'll see some of our lads there, Donald, Paul and Donald, out in and Park, I beg your pardon, out in the K Club. So we can work and deliver the experience on site if your itineraries are time poor. And we had great plans. I'm sure, like everybody else on this call, for 2020. We had been 10 years in existence. It was a milestone year for us. We had 2 big projects to undertake. That was to launch our FIT service in Galway and to launch a brand new visitor centre in 6 Mile Bridge in Clare. which is due for 2020. Unfortunately, COVID has seen that they'll be put back now till 2022. So where we are in Galway, just so you know, I'm sure most of you are very familiar with it. We work from Lee Mellis in Ballylacan Strand, and you'll see, for those of you maybe not from the area, but maybe familiar with some of the landmarks, we're just down the road from GMIT, just directly on the shores of Galway Bay, a really beautiful setting. So from the front of the clubhouse, you could strike a ball and land up at Galway Bay. And we're just down the road from the G Hotel. So it just gives you an indication of exactly where we are. Now, if I can just explain a little bit about the history of us being in Galway. We've been operating as a pop-up since 2016. We completed and opened our permanent visitor centre there in 2018, which is the other shot down below. And we had increased significantly in our volumes in 2019 with contracted business. And as I said a little bit earlier on, we were due to launch our FIT product in 20, but that's now postponed to 2022. So around the actual detail of what the actual product is, our standard product really is to bring our international visitors directly into the club or into a local club. They spend 2.5 to 3 hours, a half-day activity with us. And the structure of it is they come in first for an audio-visual induction and drill. It takes probably about 15 to 25 minutes, depending upon the nature of the group, in relation to the overall introduction, which includes audio-visual features, showing some features of the games being played. And we show some what we call the Scare the BJ's videos to them, which are some, and introduce the oldest and fastest field sport in the world, and invite them then to warrior up, take on their helmets, and take on a hurl, and come out and join us for a very set format of some structured activity. It's really focused on spending some quality time with local coaches, and it's all personally delivered. It's the whole product itself is designed to feel, from a client point of view, as being very informal, but it's actually very structured underneath it. The welcome, the audio visual is all very consistent from group to group, and our set of routines, again, when we're outside engaging people in the activities of either football, hurling or handball, they're designed specifically to be accommodating for all agilities and all abilities. It's about how people feel, not about what they achieve. And they're based on very strong coaching techniques, and indeed based on our own GAA coaching techniques, about being inclusive across all. It can be as active or sedate as people like it to be, and we're particularly safety focused in the sense. So you'll see in the top shot here, you'll see our hurls. They're specially made hurls which have a rubber boss on them, and a composite arm. So it's all about keeping people safe, but again, having them still have a feel that they're engaging in the warrior sport of hurling. Sorry, we say really it's best. Our experience is very, very unique, and unfortunately, for the 10 years that we've been in existence, we haven't been able to find an international comparator. So we'd always say that our experience is best experienced than explained. Indeed, for the years 2013 to 2016, the experience was so popular here in Dublin with our international visitors that we were rated the top things to do in TripAdvisor in Dublin. So it hits really well with our international visitors. I hope this video is going to work, and it might give you just some sort of indication, a quick flavour of what to do. So there's our cultural induction in our centre. Then we bring people out. We always bring them onto all-weather surfaces, so there's no mucky or dirty surfaces they're working on. They're all obviously supplied with a helmet and all equipment as required. They all start on very specific basic activities, which is one person, one ball, and the session then evolves by building confidence with our guests, and then we finish normally with a small little minor league competitive game. Which it very much depends upon the makeup of the group. Some of our incentive groups don't really do minor competitions. So that just gives you some sort of flavour of the fun and the the simplicity and the fun of the activity itself, all done in a very supervised environment. So that's it to I suppose to finish up, to tell you, from our incentives, really find it's ideally focused on incentives because our greatest strength is that it's uniquely Irish activity, and often ranks for our visitors as one of the most memorable activities they've engaged in while they've been here on the island. It can be light and suitable for all. It's very, very fun based, obviously, and we can deliver on or off site. So for your for incentive groups who are time poor, we're happy to come and deliver it on site on hotel grounds. It also provides a uniquely Irish gifting opportunity. So we've seen, you've well seen, on Taoiseach and Kenny presenting a hurl to Barack Obama and the like. So it's an equivalent that it's always we can produce personalised items, including slitters and hurls to be presented. And on site in Lee Mellows, we can certainly offer a homemade lunch option as well if anybody wants to stay.
Cormac, you've just gone out of sound there. Cormac, do you want to go out and come back in again? Just lost you there for a minute. So we'll just give Cormac a minute here to get in and get out. It's just unfortunate there now that he is frozen. Anyone got any questions for Cormac? You can just pop them in the chat box there, or get ready there to unmute yourself and ask him. I think he's just nearly at the end of his presentation, so I'm just kind of watching him here in the wait room to see will he come back in. Hopefully he will. It's the joys of depending on the old Wi-Fi and technology, isn't it?
Yeah, just while Cormac's missing there, I've witnessed a bunch of tours that groups that he's looked after, and he's right. It seems to be the highlight of their tour. They really enjoy it. I looked after one group by accident. Hi, Cormac. Sorry, I'll stop out. I was just saying that I met one of your groups.
Great to hear.
And they were so happy. They were from London. They were all kids of ethnic minority background in London. And oh man, they were a foot taller after your experience. They were brilliant. Okay.
They're new Connemara warriors.
Thanks, Brian. Cormac, I think that was your last slide there, was it? Yeah.
Apologies.
Yeah. Don't worry. These things happen. So look at some lovely comments there for you in the chat box. Armando says he totally agrees with you that the experience is possibly more successful in presenting Ireland's culture and opening visitors' eyes than many hours of talking. So very true. Anna says there she's delighted to see you today and love what you guys do and look forward to having you, your guests in Galway again. Kathleen is saying a great product. The Gaelic games are very popular with the international groups. They love it. Well done. Armando is saying he's difficulties in getting people away. I had people for up to 75 and they spoke about this for ages. So you really leave a lasting impression on them all. And it's a real great way to get people immersed in not only our culture as Ireland, but the local community and the local coaches and trainers, and going up to the local clubhouse. You know, the GA is such a big thing for many communities here in Ireland. And I love the stories that your staff tell, you know, of the international groups coming in. And there was a particular one, I think it was probably one of the North American groups that you had in. They were making the sandwiches. And then they'd bring in the Irish mammies to serve the sandwiches, and they'd be having the chats with all the international visitors. And some of them are actually even pen pals now, and they write to each other, and friendships are formed from that. So it's just lovely thing to hear. So Sam is saying there she loves the whole activity package, including the lunch and gifts. It really is great, the gifting opportunity. It's everything in one there. You're ticking so many boxes there, Cormac, definitely with your offering.
We love it. We're missing it so much, to be honest, Rose. We're missing it so much, being back and sharing the passion with people. And the messages are beautiful. It's great to see. It's lovely to see the lovely comments. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that the Liam Mellow site, I have to say, is stunning, and Cormac touched on it. The location is just looking over the water there, and it's so easy to access from anywhere in Galway, and it's just off the Dublin Road. If you know the GMIT as you approach Galway from the east there, it's off down to the left 5 minutes away. But you could actually go anywhere, you know, if you're under time pressure with a group. We've done stuff out on the Claddagh. You can go into another local club or just pick a stunning location, and you know, it's so flexible from that perspective. Did anyone want to ask Cormac anything directly there? If you want to unmute yourself.
Steve has a question in the chat box. Steve, yeah, it's fair in imachtaí agru trí meán na Gaeilge mas mátá gáim ná mátá tagiri by which son station yana. And are we accredited with Cumulus Class Gael? Yeah, when we set up initially, it was very important for us to promote the correct image, I suppose, of the association and positively. So we worked with Croke Park and became the official accredited activity provider for the association.
Okay, thanks very much.
Carmela.
Great question. Thanks, Steve. Anybody else? No, that's it. Listen, thanks so much, Cormac. Lovely to have you here today. Really well done. And we will be posting all the presentations online and the recording. So lastly, we're going to invite Brian Nolan on. And the last time I seen you, Brian, was in O'Connor's pub with a pint of Guinness, and you were telling us lots of great stories. So I'm bringing you on here today because I love your storytelling, and it's a real lost art, I think, nearly. There's few people around still, but it's just a lovely thing to add on to any program. And Brian will explain more about where he does the stories and what stories he does, but he also does many other things, and he's a great knowledge of Galway. So he's just going to take you through a bit more about Galway, and then he's going to regale us with a lovely story, or a story. Thanks, Brian.
My pleasure. It's great to see you all here. I'm really thrilled to be addressing you today. I haven't talked to a stranger for months, it feels like, and Zoom calls are so different. We've all gotten used to them now, and you know, Zooming is a means of storytelling, and I suppose it should come natural to me. But I love the interaction with people, and particularly I love the interaction with people who've just arrived into Galway for their visit, their tour, whatever it may be. Let me just share the screen here. Good Lord, I seem to have lost. Here we go. Let me share this one now. I'm going to take a second and excuse me. Why am I having difficulty here? Bear with me 1 second, guys. My screen. Here we go. Gotcha. Slideshow. There we go. You all see that?
That's perfect, Brian.
Okay. Let me just go back there. I'm Brian Nolan, Galway Walks, walking tours of Galway. And while I do a lot of walking and talking myself, I have a loosely based group of perhaps 10 guides whom I work with. So when I get 2 calls, as you do, as Cormac knows, certainly, and anyone in the tours business, if you get 2 calls in one day, it's always for the 1 hour. So you can't be the power of bilocation. I haven't managed it yet. So I have lots of people to delegate to, and some of them are experts in history, some experts in the Irish language and Irish history itself, and of course others experts in everything from food to whiskey to beer to whatever. So it's never a case of being overbooked. There's always lots of people who are willing to do the work in Galway. If anything else, we have acres of guides, and work is what we want. So this is why we're speaking to you today. Galway is a unique location. When you, as you see, if you can see Galway, you can see the Wild Atlantic Way, which has been the greatest opener of doors for us, because we are the midpoint on the Wild Atlantic Way. You can come to Galway by train or bus or car or whatever and go north or south and explore the Wild Atlantic Way. Huge business in that, and people do a destination stay in Galway for a night or 2 and then they move on, and that's where we have the opportunity to meet them. With the tour groups that I deal with particularly, I find that if I meet them on the first day, first hour they're there, then my tour opens doors for them and suggestions for activities that they can do later on. The groups we deal with can be as small as 2, as large as 40. And of course, if it's multiples of that, then we just get extra tour guides or whatever to look after them. In terms of street tours, 20 people is an optimum, but with speaker sets and whatever, you can do a lot more. But I don't even want to see those numbers in COVID times, and I think it'll enhance the visitor experience if we have smaller numbers. Galway County, we're very lucky. When people refer to Galway, they think of the city, whereas I think of the county. Connemara on the west is a whole destination area. We've just heard about the activities out there. And of course, you have north, south, and east Galway, equally interesting and filled with hotels. Galway itself, on Galway Bay, very interesting city. Just to give you a little map of the city centre there, we've already seen that on Cormac's slides. This is what the city looked like 500 years ago. It really hasn't changed at all. If you look on the bottom right, you can see the Claddagh Church. And if you look on the centre bottom, you'll see St. Nicholas's Church. The streetscape is the same. The city is about a square mile, and it was surrounded by a wall, just like Dublin was and many other towns and cities in Ireland. And that's my stomping ground for the tours. City has loads of pubs, obviously, lots and lots of activities, and people love to have a quick tour, get a feel for the city. And I find that visiting groups, don't forget there's a lot of hotel accommodation and Airbnb, of course, in the area. So getting your guests to enjoy an experience in Galway is very easy and can be, a real enhancer for the visit to Galway. These are some of the visitors that we've not invited and some that we have. And now, of course, with that program, Who Do You Think You Are? I think that we all know about DNA and tracing your roots. It's the single biggest motivators for visitors to the west of Ireland, other than scenery, is tracing your ancestors. And we love to do that here. I incorporate that DNA story, and that's one of the stories I'm going to tell you at the end of this presentation. Just bear it in mind. Galway is a medieval city. If you walk through the Spanish Arch, that archway there in the center of that photograph, you'll be in the museum. And our museum is just undergoing a huge revamp and will be reopening on the 14th of this month. So a couple of days' time, our museum is back open. The place will begin to look normal. We may actually have some business for the summer period, albeit if it's only staycationers. This is the most famous building in the city, Lynch's Castle, hanging out in Galway. It's a little pun, of course, because the word to lynch or lynching comes from a story that we tell about this. I won't bore you with that story right now, but you can look at my website, galwaywalks.com. I set myself a task in November to write a story a day for 50 days. And I've done it for 70 days. So there's acres of new stories about Galway and the city. Some of them even I can't remember, but they're all a bit of fun, a little tongue-in-cheek, because that's what I find that people relate to. You've all heard about the Galway hooker. And then, of course, we have the Galway hooker beer. And of course, what I do is I challenge my guests. Once they've tried the Galway hooker beer, I said, your real challenge is to somehow or other get your hands on a Galway hooker beer tankard. It's a big challenge because the bars won't sell them, which leads to underhand methods of doing the same. The Claddagh, everyone knows about the Claddagh. I sing the song, if you ever go across the sea to Ireland, and maybe at the closing of your day, you can sit and watch the moonlight over Claddagh and watch the sun go down on Galway Bay. We have a wonderful cottage recreated, built 5 years ago, there on the left. It's in the Claddagh itself, the only thatched cottage we have left. And they have a visitor centre there with a tea room and a gorgeous fireplace. I do stories around that fireplace. It's a great place to bring an incentive group, very interesting place to visit. And of course, every shop in town sells the Claddagh ring. Salt Hill, we're lucky. Galway City not only has an urban centre and an industrial centre, we also have a seaside centre. And it has 3 hotels. Between the 3, the Ardalon, the Salt Hill and the Galway Bay Hotel, they can sleep up to 800 people. So in terms of a conference group or a large incentive group, no issue with accommodation looking out on the waters of Galway Bay. Galway races, Galway's always in the news. You'll see Every year in July, we have the Arts Festival and the Racing Festival. And if you're talking about television minutes, we couldn't afford to buy the advertising that gives us. Culture on the street. The streets are alive in the summer. The girl on the left is Emma. She is a Shan Nos, or old style dancer. She's now based out in Connemara Abbey, actually, and you can take Emma on in terms of doing an online virtual dance lesson, or indeed, if you're out in Connemara, you can hire her directly. And of course, the buskers in town are brilliant. Galway is busking central. Over 70 buskers are on the streets on a regular basis, so it's never quiet. It's always a bustle and a boom, and you can ask them to play your favorite song. Oh, did I say favorite song? Galway Girl, everyone's favorite song. I actually do a Galway Girl tour. This has become so popular with under 25s or under 30s that I have a full tour of all the locations that Ed Sheeran went to when he recorded his Galway Girl tour. But of course, the Galway Girl song was recorded originally in O'Connor's pub. It's my office. I'm the most fortunate guy in Galway because I have two offices. One is in O'Connor's and the other is O'Connell's. So O'Connor's is in Salt Hill, O'Connell's in Eyre Square, and I do everything from whiskey and beer tasting to fireside tours. It suits small and medium-sized groups. In a pub, you want a bit of space. O'Connor's is unique because they don't open till 7:30, and I have exclusive use of the pub from 6 to 7:30 to do my storytelling in there, in front of the fireplace, light the fire, and talk to the people, literally walking between the stools. The place is filled with antiques, and if you're ever stuck for an idea for a story, look around, you'll spot something to tell a story about. O'Connell's has a wonderful backyard, lends itself to groups, large groups, and of course they do food there, which O'Connor's and Salt Hill don't do. Education brings huge numbers of people to Galway City, whether it's conferences or indeed in the summer when they're using the accommodation that the students would use. High-class accommodation, I would say that they sleep 2,000 people a night during the summer in student accommodation, regular tourists and tour groups. I also deal with a lot of language schools, a lot of groups coming from Spain and Italy and Austria and Germany, you name it, here to learn English. And I do specialized tours for them, introductory tours. It's really an English lesson with some difficult local jargon words, and they learn from that experience. We're very lucky here, loads and loads of high-class, top-class companies who bring their executives, their sales teams, their tech teams in for meetings, and I do little group tours for them, introductory tours, whatever. It's great fun. Hey, we're in the news every week. Every Friday or Saturday or Sunday during the rugby season, we're on television around Europe. People know the place Galway, and we're so lucky. Galway 2020 just finished. We just handed over the baton last week to 3 cities. They had to get 3 cities to replace Galway. Imagine that. We were unlucky. Of course, COVID-19 killed off everything. So that's what I do. Tours for ordinary folks and tours with the odd celebrity. You'd never know who'd turn up on your tour. And of course, that's me. I'm going to bring you back to the hooker slide for 1 second, because during that November-December period when I was writing the story a day, I came across a reference to a Galway hooker. These hookers, there are currently 15 boats that the city has just helped restore. So there's a group, 2 groups actually, of hooker sailors. The boats are between 15 and 40 foot long, and the hooker sailors are trained. So all during the winter, we've been training small groups of people, adults and younger people, ordinary, everyday people who in the city just want to learn to sail or crew a hooker. So now when we have a festival or an event or a good day of weather in Galway, you can have as many as 15 of these restored boats, some of them over 100 years old, sailing on the bay as a backdrop to whatever's happening in the city. It really sets the bay and the harbour alive with activity. And of course, the red sails, they're so colourful, they make a wonderful photograph. I was down there helping to restore a boat called the Lovely Anne. You'll hear more about that next week from Kieran Oliver. He does Galway Bay boat tours. And we were sanding the boat, and one of the guys mentioned that, oh, in 1870, a family boat owned by the Keneallys had gone out fishing for herring. And what you do is you go out at night, in the evening, sail whatever 5 miles offshore, set your herring net, and leave it out all night. In the morning, haul it in and bring the fish in to sell. Of course, in 1870, there was no refrigeration. So they went out, and there was a bit of a wind, and they said, oh, we'll go a bit further out towards the Iron Islands, better fishing ground out there. Lo and behold, they hadn't really watched the signs, the seagulls on the shore or whatever, and they both got swept out to sea. In the process, they lost their mainmast, so they had only a jib sail left. The boat was swamped. They were freezing cold. The fire that they had lit in a little grate in the center to heat themselves had gone out with the waves. And 2 weeks later, they were picked up nearly 500 miles offshore, helpless. There were 3 of them were still alive of the 4, and they were picked up by a Norwegian ship that was shipping timber or whatever across to America. So they said, can you bring us back to Galway? And he said, no, our next stop is New York. So a week and a half later, they pulled up into New York, 1872, 3 men in the clothes they left the Claddagh in 3 or 4 weeks earlier, no money, speaking probably only Irish, and they land in New York. Well, they weren't exactly hailed as celebrities, but lucky for them, the Irish immigrants had already formed Tammany Hall, this political machine, and they rallied around these 3 hapless immigrants. They thought they'd stay, but of course they wanted to go home to their wives in 2 cases, and to their mammy in another case. So they did a whip around, and a full 12 weeks later, they arrived home to Galway, having come home via Liverpool, another boat trip to Dublin, I guess a train, Dublin to Galway. They arrived down to Galway to find that their wives had already waked their missing bodies and buried them by proxy, had the funeral masses and so on. And now there were 3 ghosts in the Claddagh, 3 men wandering around with no boat. Don't forget that boat was their livelihood. And of course, no credulity that they hadn't made a fortune in America, that the boys in America hadn't greased their palm with thousands of dollars or whatever it be. So it was an unlucky event for them, but a unique sailing event. And that's the kind of story I love to research and tell to the groups. When I meet a group, excuse me, when I meet a group, I try to get a little background information ahead of time, a few Irish last names, and I can then personalize the story directly to that group or that family or that event or whatever it might be. Their special interest, it might be in craft, or it could be in genealogy or whatever. And the tours that I do then, I pluck somewhere from my mind the 100 or so stories. I pluck 5 or 10 for that. So that's the type of thing I do. There are lots and lots of tour guides in Galway. If it's a case that I'm busy, I'll be able to pass it on to someone else. I know one thing. I miss the tours so much. I know that you guys miss your tours so much. Together we'll be okay together. Next year, the year after, I think there's a pent-up demand, and I think that we'll have to just put on our creative hats, keep our name out there, and that's what you'll do, that's what I'll do. If you want to look at my Facebook page, Walking Tours of Galway, galwaywalks.com, and at Galway Walks on Twitter and Instagram and all the rest of it. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Brian. And thank you for that story. So very interesting. I love hearing these parts of history, and oh God, I can't imagine how those guys felt coming back to Galway to find they had been buried by proxy. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. Well, you can just imagine what it was like for them, and this story has been forgotten and just resurrected. The museum are doing a special pageant on stories like that, so they've just started picking up local stories, and I think it's fantastic.
It is. Thanks so much, Brian. Anybody would like to ask Brian a question? You can unmute yourself there, pop your hand up, or if you want to pop it in the question box there. Lots of lovely comments. Brian, brilliant and fascinating from Armando. Any foreign language guides that you can recommend in your cohort there?
Yeah, there are 2 girls that I give a lot of work to in Spanish tours, and there's another lady who does French. and one of my own guides is fluent in real Connemara Irish, so we do Irish tours. And curiously, that same gentleman has very good German. So yeah, we can do foreign language tours. As I said to you about the foreign language groups, a lot of them want to hear English spoken in the vernacular, and it's a different voice to their teacher that they've heard all day long. So you're challenging them, you're doing a bit of role play with them, that type of thing. And particularly these, I'm saying kids, they're usually late teens, early 20s. You have to be animated to keep them engaged. And I love that challenge, and the people I use for those tours particularly love that challenge. We've all been vetted in terms of Garda vetting and so on, and of course the new COVID-19 health charter and so on, all that stuff we've all done, and we're all registered guides.
Thanks, Brian. Just a question here from Dara. From the hotel's perspective, will there be scheduled tours this summer? And if so, where would the starting point be?
That's a good question, Dara. I've kept the message up on my website that because of COVID-19 restrictions, we're not doing tours yet. I will probably take that down on the 1st of July, but probably not before that, and start doing ad hoc and FIT tours. There won't be real group tours. I don't imagine we should do. There will be some people doing scheduled tours, probably operating from the tourist office if they reopen. If they don't reopen, we're having a walking tour festival scheduled right now for I think it's the 3rd or 4th weekend of June, and that will be our first foot in the water. We're being cautious, obviously. The last thing we want is to be spotted with 20 tourists from wherever in any unsafe manner. It's difficult to give a walking tour wearing a mask. I've done it, you know, for small groups, 2s and 3s and 4s. So to answer your question, Dara, I would suggest that watch this space. We'll all be sending out our references to the hotels saying walking tour starting at Jury's, at the museum, at the tourist office. But nobody has put their head above the parapet yet, because we're a little scared to do so until we get a sort of a safety clearance.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you so much for your presentation. Lots of lovely comments in the chat box if you want to have a look. Very informative. Did someone else want to ask something?
Can I
Ashley?
ask, can you tell us a little more about the Walking Tour Festival? Sounds intriguing.
What the city have done through the tourism officer in the city, he has persuaded us to put on multiple tours over a weekend. We had it planned for last June or July, and it just couldn't happen because of restrictions. So we postponed it, and we had 26 guides signed up, doing everything from riverwalk tours to haunted tours, and to regular history tours. So it has its own website, and I'll say that there'll be a lot of publicity about it if we get the green light. We've just had our most recent meeting, which was very promising, and if numbers stay as they are, I suspect we'll be doing it. Don't forget the hotel's open on June 7th, Dara, is that right?
2nd, yeah.
2nd. And we'll be able to travel intra-county. So I think that, or inter-county rather, I think we'll be ready to roll. Just that the festival was to do a big blast so that people then would know if they come to Galway, or indeed Kilkenny or wherever, that there would be tour guides ready to take on the walk. So it's our big splash to say we're back.
Well, best of luck with it, Brian. It sounds like a great idea.
Oh, and by the way, the tours for that weekend are free. Yeah.
Thanks, Ashley, and great question. I'll get some more information on that walking tour actually, because it's been on my mind, and I can circulate it with you as well as it would be great, something that might repeat every year though, maybe, you know.
It's cutting our teeth, and a lot of the newer younger guys, don't forget that through Falch Ireland and the various other agencies, we've been training tour guides all winter and all last winter. So there are a whole tranche of new tour guides who really haven't had a chance to dip their foot in the water yet. And you know, I love the new guides coming up, because they've a new energy to them. Okay, they're competition, but there's plenty of business. It's a great family summer activity. Do a tour, new location. You want to find out where the restaurants are, and who better to ask than the local walking tour guide?
Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
Excellent presentation. Thanks so much. So next week, guys, we're back again for our 5th session at 11 o'clock on Tuesday. Just if you haven't registered for that one already, I'll send you the links later and the recordings. Next week, we're going to have Galway Bay boat tours. We're going to hear from the Galway Racing Festivals, what you can do with your groups up there. And we're also going to hear from Wildland Adventure Park. So that's a new activity in Galway City, just 15 minutes outside the city. So definitely worth coming in for that. So thank you so much to all of you for joining us again today. Lovely to see you back, and we'll see you all again next week. Be in touch soon.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.